There we go. Okay. All right, folks. Today we have Mike on my far left and Fraser from Green Horizon Sod Farm, who on short notice came here today. I sort of screwed up the schedule. I thought Dean Baker was coming here from Burlington Golf Course, and I don't know if you guys supply Burlington.
Yeah.
Yeah, no surprise.
Yeah.
So I made a bit of a scheduling error, and Mike and Fraser jumped in on short notice. So I'm very appreciative of that, and also very cool that they brought along some sandals and other gear. If you didn't get anything when you came in today, please grab it when we leave. We're going to go through this much the same way we did last week when Rob Hagee was here from BMO. It'll be the same questions, but it will take us in a different direction. One being a sports facility. This is a product provider. So I'm gonna, before I jump in and start saying all sorts of things, I'll say again that Mike is part of the Sheeto family, which have owned and operated Green Horizons in a couple different variations. It used to be Compact Sod and other names. Fraser is an employee and helps run the Hamilton farms.
Yeah.
I have that right?
Yep.
This is big production of sod. And one of our second year students, a guy you haven't seen around at all this year because he's studying at home, Eric Jacobson, did his internship with Green Horizons this year at the Cambridge farm. And absolutely, I was telling these guys before, absolutely loved it. Come on in, Jasmine. And absolutely loved it. Like, absolutely loved it. I said just before some of you got here, the equipment on the farm is quite something, and I wish you could see the harvester because it's like something off the moon, the way they pull sod off the ground and stack it up. So I'm just going to go through these questions. This will take us anywhere from 40 to 50, 55 minutes. And we'll have a look at how this goes. So, guys, thanks for being here today. As these people are all getting involved in turf training, I wonder what your backgrounds are in education at any level to get you prepared for this. And I'll let you go at your preference here.
Yeah, so I guess, do you want to start?
There you go.
So I guess, I started out, it was the local farm. I knew Mike from high school. Luckily, we were good friends, and we were friends through high school. I went off to university. I started in mechanical engineering, and so while I was in school, I came home for the summer and said, "Hey, Mike, can I chop wood or anything around on the farm?" He said, "Yeah, come in 20 minutes." And I'm like, "Oh, great! I'm not ready for this." So next thing I know, I'm helping out in the yard, doing whatever. Mike convinces me to stay, and then I come back another year, and then, as I'm going through school, I did 2.5 years of mechanical engineering.
Right away, that's a question for me. Mechanical engineering is a pretty good future.
Yeah.
What moved you away from that? Just love being in the industry?
I've always loved farming. My grandfather was a farmer. I loved helping out any chance I could, and it's a good balance where I loved engineering, but I also loved the business side of things. So 2.5 years in, I'm looking at my future and saying, Green Horizons is kind of something I actually see myself doing, and I switched from mechanical engineering and went into business.
Oh, so you did a business
degree? Yeah, so I ended up with a business degree.
Okay.
And luckily, all of my engineering credits
transferred
over, so I just had to take the core courses, and then I came out with a bachelor's degree in business, and that's kind of when I started full time, just as Michael was kind of moving from our Hamilton location to our Cambridge location, and I took over some of Michael's responsibilities, and it's been lots of fun ever since. I've done short course.
And I think that's important to note that you come at this with practical experience working at Green Horizons for several years, but you also got a credential in our industry with the turf manager's short course, which
Yeah,
is lovely. We're
Yeah, so I
we're
did
glad
that
that
during
you're a
the
Guelph
winter.
grad.
yeah.
Yeah. And Michael, how did it get going for you? I mean, it's sort of a natural. It's your family business.
Yeah, so for the schooling end of things, I didn't do as much as the secondary. I started working right out of high school. You know, in my family, you know, it was always work. It was always about work. But that being said, you know, I was always promoted to try to do schooling with what I could while working. So I ended up doing business courses at night schooling at our local college, and I really enjoyed that. Just talking my own experiences, it was something that was, you know, that I had to take the initiative to do, and you were still working all day, but then you would go and start your night course at 5 o'clock and go until 9.
That's a bit of a grind, isn't it?
Bit of a grind, but it was, you know, you had to enjoy what you were doing in order to do it, and, you know, to learn. So I did my night courses, and then I also did the turf grass short course. I think it was 5 or 6 years ago now that I did the short course, and
Mike, was I there when you took it?
I think you were there.
Yeah,
I
that
think
would
you
have
were
been
there.
about, maybe just after me, but
Yeah,
I would have seen
Could've
it,
been
I
right
would have
at
come
that
into the
transition.
class anyway, yeah.
but I really enjoyed that turf manager short course. You know, I always worked on the farm my whole life, always been around grass, and kind of had that knowledge passed down from, you know, everybody I was working with. And it was just so valuable to actually get the educational side from the University of Guelph. So I really liked that. That jived really well doing that short course. And since then, we recommended a lot of our key personnel to take the short course whenever they were available in the winter.
Excellent.
And yeah, other than that, for traditional education, that was really it.
That's plenty. I wonder if you could tell us, and Mike, this might come from mostly you, but Fraser, you've been involved in the company for a long time. Can you give me a bit of a history of how Green Horizons has come about, and maybe some of the benchmarks along the way?
Yeah. Yeah, so Green Horizons, we've been a family business forever, and we've been a business family a lot longer than Green Horizons. We were farmers first, so when we first landed here, it was in Waterloo County, and that would have been my great-great-grandfather, and we were just the typical cash croppers. And from there, we got into dairy farming, and at my grandparents' level, both my grandmother and my grandpa were dairy farmers. And it's funny, my grandma's still with us today, 87 years old, and she still talks about her first herd of Guernsey cattle, because she was one of the first ones to bring Guernseys into this area, which was a big deal. I don't know if anybody knows about dairy, but the genetics, Canada is worldwide known for the genetics that we produce, and that used to be a big deal before they were taking samples, and when the breeding system was different. Cows were extremely valuable, and the bartering system of trading cows, you know, New Zealand, it was a worldwide market to sell Canadian genetics, dairy genetics.
And just if I may interrupt, Mike, it's you might say, okay, you know, cattle, whatever, but this is indicative of the Sheetal family, who have always impressed the heck out of me, and they're super nice to deal with in business too. But they have always been innovators. And we were talking about that before the class came in. Maybe we can touch on that a bit more. But it's never been just okay to do one thing, to be a farmer or to get into sod production. It's always seems to be, what else can we do?
I think that's key. It's always what else. It's like the, you know, saying that we have, that my dad's always instilled. You know, it's a blessing and a curse that you're proud of what you've done, but you're never satisfied of what you've done, and that's a weird spot to be in. Even with successes, you might be proud of your successes, but you're not satisfied. And to be satisfied, it's all in grow. What can you do next? That's what you're always yearning for. anyhow, from dairy, we actually had a snapshot in time that we were into pigs, and we got into the pig market was a big deal, and that was in the early 70s, late 60s to early 70s, and we built a few pig barns and had a few herds of pigs, and while the dollar was good for pigs, you know, we were growing and growing and growing, but then all of a sudden that market
Yes, that
crashed.
bottomed out.
Yeah, the swine market crashed, and we ended up getting out of that. And so my grandparents, they had 2 sons and 2 daughters. So my Uncle Ron was the oldest, and when he became of age, they had to expand. So we got into selling fertilizer and chemicals, and we were one of the first. It wasn't a co-op, technically a co-op, but we were a supplier for the local farmers. And that was another proud moment, is that we were one of the first to bring in liquid fertilizer when that first came out, and that was in the late 60s, early 70s as well, liquid 22. You know, that was another proud moment of Grandpa Cheeto. So we were selling farm supplies or inputs, as well as doing cash cropping, and that's when the sod industry was just starting out. They were developing a lot of roads, they were developing subdivisions in a mass scale.
Yes.
And they were looking for a solution other than seeding to finish those projects faster. So that's when we were right at the cusp, or right at the beginning of the sod industry.
You positioned yourself to be there,
and
though. You looked for it.
We were always looking for something.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah, so then we got into sod and just kept on going strong with sod. Started in the mid 70s. I think 75 was our first year we planted, and 77 was our first crop. Took 2 to 3 years to grow sod. Yeah, so back then that was just in Cambridge, and since then we expanded into our Hamilton market when my dad became of age. He was 10 years younger than Ron, so we bought a farm in Hamilton. So that Steve moved down there because you couldn't have too many chiefs in one operation. So we expanded Cambridge and Hamilton sod farming. From there, we started the Big Yellow Bag business.
Do you guys know what that is? Have you seen that? It is bagged soil.
Bagged soil.
Black soil.
Yep.
And you'll see it. It's all over the place, and competitors are now out there.
Yeah.
But the Green Horizons is quite identifiable by its yellow and green colors.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys also developed a distribution system for that too, right? Do I have that right, Michael?
Yeah. So Big Yellow Bag. It's amazing how Big Yellow Bag has grown, and today Big Yellow Bag is about half of our business. When you include our local and our extended market, today we license out the business to other sod farms in different regions throughout the states, Western Canada, even north of Toronto. We have some close licensees. But yeah, the Big Yellow Bag, that was a natural business for us to get into. We're farmers, we know soil. And I think a lot of it was ahead of its curve, and we're starting to see that consumer demand today as people become more and more aware of how important organic matter is to the health of your plants. And I don't know if that's being taught in these lessons.
Well, these guys are in soils right now with Mike Van Beek, and I'm sure the message is clear, but much more thorough than just saying healthy soil. It's much more than that. So.
Yeah, synthetic fertilizers were king for 50, 60 years, and today we're just finally starting to look up and say, well, this isn't natural, what's this doing to the soil health? And people are starting to learn how important the microbial activity is to the soil. Anyhow, Big Yellow Bag, and that was in 94. We built a golf course in 97, Willow Valley Golf Course, and that was a part of our Hamilton farm that we bought in 85. And that farm, talking about that entrepreneurship, when Steve came down to Hamilton and we bought that farm, it was a 270 acre piece of land that was very unproductive. And you can imagine, everybody's laughing at this farmer from Cambridge buying this unproductive land, but it was close to town. And what was unproductive farmland had really great features for a golf course. The marshy areas and the streams and the hills. you know, always had vision, so that's where we naturally, you know, always had a plan, and ended up building that golf course in '97 was the completion date. And that was when golf was extremely hot. You had a 6-year turnover for your investment, and everybody built a golf course.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did.
And then it became too high supply, and ever since, the business has been kind of tough, up until right now, this has been a phenomenal year for golf, as I'm sure you guys know. Yeah, so golf in '97, and then continued to expand our sod farm operation, and today we're about 6,000 acres of sod production, and that's
6,000 acres.
6,000.
You lease a lot of that land.
We own and we lease, yeah. We own land and lease land. We're about, would you say 2,500? We're about 2,500 in Hamilton, 2,500 in Cambridge, about 700 in London, and 300 in Burford.
Guys, is that all in sod production? You still do some cash
Yeah.
crop.
Majority, 90% of it, at least in Hamilton, I would say
Yeah.
in Cambridge as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
So you would say close to 6,000 acres in sod production.
Correct.
Yeah, but not all at one time,
Yeah,
that's the
yeah.
other, you know, trying to be
It's
responsible growing.
it's committed to the production of sod.
Correct. We don't carry land that we can't put sod in, period. So sod is a 3-year crop, 2 to 3 year, and within that cycle, you might put a year of cash crop, to give the soil a rest or a change into a different crop. So out of that 6,000 acres at any given time, it might be sitting around the 4,000 green acres.
So, to develop a roll of sod takes 2 to 3 years, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you guys put the meshing in it anymore? There used to be in the old days plastic meshing
Yeah.
in some sod, which
Yeah.
if you're still doing it, my apologies, but I hated that
Yeah.
stuff.
Talk about spectrum a little bit.
Yeah, well, you mean putting meshing in the spectrum?
Well, I guess spectrum, we don't have it in yet, but we do have netting in some of our grass, but the mass majority we don't.
So the intention, guys, this is really weird. I was in the landscape construction business for many, many years, and Green Horizons was our producer, or our provider. But there was a time there that I found that this netting was in the middle of the sod
Yeah.
to help hold it together, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was a real pain in the butt to cut, like if you're edging, and
Oh, yeah.
it would find its way back up to the surface years later, and then you're trying to pull this mesh out, and
Yeah,
oh,
sounds
geez, I
tough.
hated that stuff.
Well, now we can't keep, at our specialty farm, we can't keep, grass in the ground long enough, and we're forced to net. I think Ryan's, would you say, he's gotten 2 crops off this year,
Yeah, 3 of bent grass.
3
Okay.
of bench grass.
We're gonna talk about specialty crops in a moment, guys, in a moment. I think it's just important to note with Green Horizons, and in fact, the Cheeto family, that they are very entrepreneurial, that, as Michael was saying, there's always, you've had great success. They got 6,000 acres in production of sod. You think that would keep them busy enough? I was mentioning to Mike that on a recent tour geez, I was gonna call it compact sod there, of Green Horizons, I saw these solar panels, and it was explained to me that Green Horizons is harnessing energy, and I don't know if you're just using it or selling it, but, you know, it's just, there's always something else, always something else. They going into the storage barns at Green Horizons, all sorts of seed product that they sell and other fertilizers that I think are also out there. It's also true that in days gone by, they would at least maintain equipment for landscapers. My brother had Walker riding mowers, and Green Horizons was where he went to have them serviced. So they're always looking for something new, and I think that's something that you guys should keep in mind. Yeah, right now, the thought is, for the great majority of you, my career is in turf management and golf course environments. Please keep your minds open, okay? Please.
Yeah, you know, definitely we're a growing company, and we're We're always looking for like-minded people that are passionate for our type of industry. It takes a passion to look after a living thing, you know, grass being a living thing. And, you know, we're always looking for new talent, you know, new farm managers. We're always looking to grow. We're looking for people to grow with us.
Yeah. Sort of a tough question here. What's your management style at Green Horizons? The point I made, and you guys may remember this from last week, how do you keep staff happy and motivated? You know,
I would say we're more like rugby than we are football.
Yeah.
why do you say that?
Where to be successful in rugby, a lot of players you gotta have strengths in a lot of different positions. They gotta be able to work together, everybody on the team, as opposed to in football, you have a very specific role and you do a very specific play and you don't stray away. Once that play is set, that's what you're doing for that 10 seconds. Where in rugby, it's a bit of a scrum, it's on the fly. So I would say our management style, we're definitely hands-on managers. We work alongside our group. All of our managers do. I think we as an ownership, we have a hands-on but hands-off in the sense that we really let our managers take the lead on the decision-making to execute the way they see fit. You gotta have ownership on your decisions to be successful. So we definitely let our managers blossom and take their direction to handle a problem. And I think that's important for when you have an idea and you have a way that you want to go about it and you have a certain direction you want to go, you know, you have the rope to execute that.
Okay.
In your
So
the way you see fit.
Fraser, you as an employee
Yeah.
are empowered to make major decisions. I'm not saying, you
Yeah.
know, like top level decisions always have to be made by ownership, but as a manager, as a farm manager, you get
Yeah.
to make a lot of important calls.
A lot of important calls, and I would say that, you know, the beauty of what we do and kind of the confusion to everyone on the outside when they ask, what do you do? And you know, everyone says everything. That's just, you know,
Yeah,
how
I'm
do you explain what you
underlining
do?
that.
It's everything. So, you know, that, you know, to answer your question, all those decisions I have to make in a day. I'm consulting Steve, I'm consulting Mike,
Yeah.
you know, and then it trickles downward too, all the, you know, the lower level employees, I'm talking to them. And everyone's kind of working together to kind of come up with some sort of game plan with what we should do, what we think's best. And then it's cool, like, you know, you see Steve out in the yard talking to the guy in the loader, and then we're all figuring it out together.
But of course, it can't be micromanagement because there's just too much going on in a day. It's not as though Mike or you can be in on every decision.
Exactly.
There's too many.
Yeah, and just like Mike said, you know, it's allowing people to make their own decisions, and there's a lot of guidance that helps, but it's, you know, ultimately that person has to own their decision. And
Own a decision.
And that's really what we find, you know, makes the happy employees.
Yes, that's
They're
very good.
allowed to blossom. You know, we have so much growth within.
I think that's a great way to put it. When it comes to your future of managing others, let them own that decision. Let them run with it and be responsible for it. That seems to be a very good idea to me. That's very well put.
Yeah, I think the goal of a leader is not to make the decision for the person that they're leading, but to give them the tools to make their decision properly.
Yeah, very good, guys, very good. This is going to be such how do we approach this? Equipment at Green Horizons. The investment there is huge. Everything from tractor trailers to deliver sod to other mid-sized trucks to deliver sod to more tight places. Tractors, seeders, graders, excavators, right?
Yeah.
Everything.
Tons, all the equipment.
Everything.
It is quite something. If you are Eric Jacobson, our second-year student who worked there last year, just couldn't get over the variety of equipment he got to operate.
Yeah.
Tens of millions of dollars worth of equipment. I don't wanna give away numbers here, I'm
Yeah.
not gonna ask for that, but
Definitely, yeah.
yeah, this is big time stuff, big time stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you like equipment, we got equipment to play with. That's for sure. When you're in the weather business, you know, there's so many different applications that happen throughout the year, whether you're dealing with, everything is wet and that you're dealing with a really rainy spring, you know, you might need you need a different type of piece of equipment. You need tractors that have four-wheel drive, you need flotation tires, you know, you need that unique equipment versus when you have dry weather, you know, you might need a certain type of implement to work the soil versus if you're dealing with wet. So for us, we have so many different soil types, you know, from our sands to our clays.
Yeah,
to
on
our
6,000
loams.
acres, you're gonna find everything.
Or you're gonna find everything to rocks, you know, rock picking equipment, so we really have a little bit of everything to handle anything and everything.
Yeah. It is quite something, and, guys, I don't know if there is a website that would show the harvesters in action. You know, maybe next year if, Cam Shaw, when he's teaching this course, and if COVID has gone its way, or gone away, maybe you can come out for a visit to Green Horizons with the first year class next year. The harvester is like something I've never seen before.
Yeah.
It truly looks like a lunar
Yeah.
landing module. It's just,
It's mesmerizing to watch.
it's mesmerizing. That's a great word for
It's
it.
a factory on wheels.
Yes, yes.
It,
Because what it does is GPS harvests, GPS to
Well, it's
It
actually
it has
an
a
internal
feeler.
auto steer that has a ski on it that rides the edge of the sod.
yes, yeah. And so it harvests it, rolls it up, stacks it on the skids and drops the skids. When I was a young guy going out to Green Horizons, man, two guys on a tractor, a harvesting tractor, and one guy for the longest period of time would simply be stacking sod on a pallet.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't, you know,
That's a laborer's job.
I had a hard job. I looked at those guys and said, you suckers, like,
Yeah.
you know.
They're stacking all of
You're
it.
stacking all day
Yeah.
in dry, hot weather.
You get them at, so sod, 1970s was when sod started, and it originated with a man on a O'Brien sod cutter. I don't know if anybody's familiar, but you'd cut that sod and then it would have a little chopper on it, and there'd be a guy behind that
Rolling
rolling
it
it
up.
up by hand and then putting it on a skid. And then that got re-engineered, and it grew into the first mechanized harvester was a Brower harvester. And-
Brower is a Canadian company.
Yeah,
right?
Jerry
just
Jerry
up in
Brower is still a sod farmer today.
Yes, is he?
Like Jerry's in his 80s and he's farming. He's growing grass. I think he spends more time flying his Cessna over his competition to scout out their inventory.
Yeah,
But Jerry Brower designed the first sod harvester, and he's just north of Toronto here. And that was that very labor intensive hand stack in every roll sod harvester. Where today it's a tree row auto stack, which is extremely mechanized, and it's a one operator in a cab making that skid of sod, and you know 4 times as fast as that Brower.
Well,
It's
and
amazing that
The operator
engaging.
might have to be very skilled, but also
Yeah.
rides in air-conditioned comfort,
Yeah.
And
on an
heated.
air
Right
suspension
now it's
seat.
heated.
Yeah, heated.
Yeah, heated, and listening to the music of his or her choice.
Yeah.
It's not bad. It's
Yeah.
not bad. And I think I can say this: the harvesters of today, at least the ones that you have, and you have about 3 of them.
Six.
Oh, right. I'm just thinking of the one farm.
Yeah.
Yeah, 6.
They are several $100,000 each, right?
Yeah,
I
we're
think I
just
can
looking
say
at them,
that.
they're 600,000 with the US to Canadian dollar exchange right now. So the 30 cents out,
You gotta put out a lot of sod to pay for that stuff, huh?
yeah.
Yeah, no wonder your farms are so big. Guys, is there such a thing as a typical day? For an employee?
I would say, you know, that goes in hand with, what do you do? Everything. Everything changes every day.
Yeah.
You know, we are not just operating when it's shiny and sunny out, when it's warm out. we are going in the spring in the rain, in the fall in the snow, and it changes every day. You know, we do have our regular kind of routines that change throughout the year. You know, in the spring, we're kind of trying to help our bagging situation out.
Yes.
You know,
So in the spring, it's getting out the big yellow bags.
yeah, getting out the big yellow bags, and some of that crew also, you know, starts the sod season. You know, we have guys out there rolling before we even start mowing. We're out rolling the fields, just trying to, you know, level out anything, push the grass back into the ground, and then we start mowing.
Picking rocks and things, yeah.
Yeah, and then when we're planting our cover crops and our, you know, doing our spring tillage, we have guys in tractors, rock picking, whatever. You know, middle of summer, now all those guys are irrigating, and the irrigation this year was major. Like, it was a 24/7
Yeah.
ordeal for 3 or 4 months.
We turned on water in June and never turned it off.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
So your irrigation systems are obviously not in ground, you'd have,
No, they're traveling units.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
It's a big reel, you pull behind the tractor and
yeah,
you move it across the field.
okay, like, these are huge rotary sprinklers, or?
Cambridge Farm has some big center
Center
pivot,
pivots, yeah.
and those are built into the ground.
Okay.
But the other ones are, it's almost like a Hot Wheels kind of ordeal where you pull it out and you turn the water on and it slowly pulls back in.
Very cool.
And you
Yeah.
just move along the field like that.
Guys, I'm interested, as I think the class hopefully is, what type of sod do you grow? What's the variety? Are you growing bluegrass?
Yeah.
Kentucky
Yeah.
bluegrass?
So I would say, 95% of what we grow is probably Kentucky bluegrass, and then
Yeah.
we do have our own specialty farm. We joke and call it Narnia. It's in Burford, and they have phenomenal soil. Ryan is the farm manager there. He can turn grass over within a year.
Yeah. Sod whisperer.
Yeah,
The sod whisperer.
sod
Sod whisperer.
whisperer.
I don't know if it'll be a big movie, but,
Yeah.
guys, so do you grow, we were talking just very briefly, and I asked you to speak about this just a bit later to follow some process here. Are you growing bent grass? Are you growing fescue? Are you,
Yep.
yes?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's at our Narnia.
Okay, at Narnia. So
That-
that's
In
5%, you grow bent. What type of variety of bent are you growing?
We grow a three-way, a progressive three-way, typically is what most guys, want. But we do grow custom blends
Okay,
for, different, clubs, different private clubs that really want a specific blend.
yes.
We'll grow custom for them. PL90 is a or an L90 is a popular one. But a lot of it is custom. A lot of it is custom, and then we use a three-way blend for the
Okay.
generic stuff.
So my note is 95% Kentucky bluegrass, 5% bent, custom varieties.
Yeah,
And-
and fescues.
And fescues,
and-
okay, 5% bent and fescues.
And specialty Kentucky bluegrass. You said that, sorry, I'm forgetting his name, who was
Rob.
here? Rob was here last week, and
Yes.
and we installed that BMO field, for their playing surface, and that was a custom grown Kentucky bluegrass, for them.
Sort of a low grow bluegrass or something?
Yeah, it's a low mold, but we also, grew it on a spec sand, so that when we harvest it, any sort of mineral soil that was going with it would be, complacent with the engineered profile that they have at that field. So that would be an example of a custom blend that we would grow in that Burford farm.
Okay,
This year has been extremely busy with the golf course end of things. Everybody's had a really good year, and they got budgets to spend, on their maintenance. Guys are doing new tees and new greens, and
Yeah.
we just haven't been able to keep bent grass in the ground, this year. It's been crazy.
yeah. Here's a question, and I don't mean to sound naive, and maybe you guys have this figured out already. How unique is growing turf on a sod farm? What is the process like? When do you prepare the growing surface in the spring? Do you seed in, I'm picking crazy, do you seed in June? Do
Yeah.
You fertilize, you know.
Fraser.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that, you know, it's funny, like that whole process.
You said it takes 2 to 3 years. How do we get started and what are the steps?
So the real thing, like, you know, going year by year is, we're trying to figure out what our sales are 3-4 years in advance, to try and figure out how many acres we should plant. And that's kind of the first step.
That's a steep task.
Yeah, is understanding your inventory and knowing when certain fields will be ready and how much you're gonna harvest in the next 3 years, and figuring out how much you need to plant. That's kind of your biggest task, is, you know, figuring that out. And we have meetings between all of the locations trying to argue about, you know, how many acres as a company we should plant and how many in each division we should plant.
So my note there is, it's a challenge to project the 2 to 3 year harvest cycle.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're trying to figure out how, you know, what in 2 to 3 years you're actually gonna be harvesting. So how much do you need? So then from there, you know, once we actually get our numbers crunched, it starts really in the spring, and every location is totally different, just because of the soil type, the things they have to deal with that soil. So I guess from the Hamilton's perspective, our biggest thing is just soil tilth and quality. We are on heavy clay. We don't have problems with fertility typically. It's just the actual soil in itself, the workability.
Yeah, and to send that to a customer, a
Yeah.
layer of clay is, I mean, if I was, am I saying this right, guys? When you harvest, you're taking a bit of soil with that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you want that layer of clay at the golf courses that you guys worked at.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Very little. You know, we always get that question asked, you know, do you guys harvest in topsoil? But comparative to a lot of other row crops out there, sod farming is one of the best crops for the soil. You can imagine, you look at what Mother Nature would do in our absence, and Mother Nature does not have open dirt anywhere. There's no such thing as open soil. That's why you have weeds. That's why you have forests and trees and shrubs and weeds. So for farming is you know, not traditional. You know, to have open ground for 6 to 8 months a year, you plant corn and it grows for 6 to 7 months, and the remainder of the year is open ground. You know, that's not what Mother Nature wants. So that, you can imagine you're going against the grain. Where with grass, you're covering that soil the entire year. You're saving it from the water erosion, you're saving it from wind erosion, and we're creating topsoil, we're creating organic matter. You know, what we were talking about earlier, we're harvesting the sun, you know, our grass is growing, and we'll grow up to 15 feet of grass clippings throughout a crop cycle, and that 15 feet of grass clippings decays into the thatch and decays lower into the soil and becomes organic matter. So that is, we're harvesting more of that thatch layer and that root system and that organic
Okay.
matter than
All
you
right.
can imagine.
I get it. I get it. Yeah,
But
yeah.
back to soil,
Yeah.
back to preparation.
Yeah, so back
Yeah,
to.
sorry, thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah.
I knew you guys didn't take much,
Yeah.
but I thought, boy, if you're growing in, as
Yeah.
Fraser's saying, in tough conditions, in clay-like conditions, I'm thinking, is that going to decline?
Yeah.
But not so much.
And it's not necessarily, like, I would say we don't really have issues with clients with soil type typically. They complain if it's a wet, heavy roll, you
Yes.
know, after it's been
Yeah, I know
2 inches
those.
of rain over the last 5
I
days.
know
Why
them, I
is
know
your
them.
sod so wet? Well,
Yeah.
it rained,
Yeah.
you know.
So
That-
you
that's-
start preparing in the spring,
Yeah.
and what's that process?
So now
Fraser?
we've kind of gotten on to, you know, to touch on Mike's ground cover thing, you know, the most unhealthy thing you can do to a soil is just let it sit and bake and do nothing. It's sitting, and you know, nothing's happening. Our grass, we always plant, we try to start, you know, first week of August and plant it later before the fall rains hit. So our theory is that, you know, let's get something growing in this soil. Let's do something with it. So what we do is we start working it up and, you know, get it perfectly level. It needs to be perfectly leveled for our seeding, for our grass seeders to actually work. Because they don't follow the contours like a traditional seeder
Okay,
would.
okay.
It's just 2 big flat rollers.
Yeah.
So, let's get that ground cover. So we're experimenting with all sorts of different cover crops, trying to increase water retention and microbial activity and soil tilth, and then we'll typically, till it under and then plant our grass right after that. And then, it's 2 to 3 years of maintenance after that.
And what is the maintenance? I've tried to grow a couple lawns from seed in my landscaping career. The client would say that it's their thought that this will make for a healthier lawn, or they don't want to go the cost of sod, which always seems crazy to me because it's very affordable. What I usually end up growing, and of course we seed in the walkway, is just a yard of weeds.
Yeah.
So what do you guys, how do you provide such top quality and consistent turf in sod? Can you share that?
There's, the funny thing about our industry is we are farmers first, but it's also an industry where we're not all selling to the local co-op. We're all selling to, everyone's got their customers.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we do a lot of different spraying, fertilizer applications, but we're all super tight about it. We don't like to divulge what we're spraying at what rate, that kind of thing. So we have our techniques to
Okay,
keep
all
it
right.
clean.
We'll leave it at that.
And
We'll leave it at
allow
that. So rates of seed application, product that goes down, fertilizers,
Yeah.
all sort of closely guarded secrets.
Tight knit cards.
Tight- okay,
That's like,
okay.
that's like Heinz,
So what we're doing.
Heinz ketchup's recipe.
Okay, all right.
But that being said, we're mowing, we're fertilizing, we're spraying chemical. We're doing everything. A big difference between what we do and what you might do on a sports field or a golf course is we're growing a crop. We're not maintaining a crop. On a golf course or a sports field, all your fertilizer rates and your chemical, everything that you're doing is all about maintaining. Where we are trying to get that maximum growth out of that every single day. So it's a bit of a different goal that you're going after.
Yeah.
Okay, that's quite interesting. Growing a crop and not maintaining, therefore, management practices are different.
Yeah, your goal is different. Your goal is to grow. Your goal is to create grass clippings and create that thatch layer. You're starting from nothing versus when you're maintaining, you're trying to get rid of that old thatch layer, and you don't want it to grow too much, so you gotta mow your greens twice a day.
And you need the thatch layer to actually physically harvest sod too.
Yeah.
That's truly what keeps it
Yeah.
together. That's the big difference. Like when you say,
Yeah.
we're trying to create a thatch layer, you need it to
And
actually.
when I say thatch layer,
You
it's
need
not
it. You
maybe
need a
what
thatch
you guys are
layer.
thinking.
Hold it. Let me catch up here.
Yeah.
You need a thatch layer in sod production. Why? To hold the product together?
Yeah.
So when what I consider thatch is probably different than what you guys are considering thatch, where thatch is bad and it takes up your moisture, it takes up your nutrients, and you're aerating. For us, when you start from seed, you got no thatch, period, zero. So you do want some thatch for a healthy grass stand.
This is true for all, like on a golf course or?
Yes, like some thatch. I'm talking some thatch, not a lot of thatch, not just some. And it's for some thatch is good for water retention. Some thatch keeps your microbial activity going. Some thatch gives some stability to the grass. But anything more than just a little bit is too much.
It's just too much.
Yeah,
It's getting that right
Yeah,
amount.
anything more than a little bit, now your fertilizer pearls are getting caught in it, now the rainfall is going into your thatch instead of your soil. Now you don't got proper air getting into the soil, that's why you gotta aerate.
Do you
thatch
guys
is bad, but-
do you guys aerate?
No,
No.
no,
Okay.
but that, and I guess that goes hand in hand, we would if we had too much thatch. But we don't have too much thatch. When you go from zero, you're going from zero to something, and you need something.
Yeah.
And we're trying to, we're growing it to before the point you need to aerate.
Yeah. Yeah, it's being harvested before you're aerating to get rid of thatch.
Very cool, guys, very cool. Any recent special projects at Green Horizons, or any associated?
Yeah, I would say a recent one was that BMO field. but that might have been 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
That we did that, and that was a interesting project. We've done the Rogers Center before in the past. We did all the natural playing surfaces for the Pan Am Games when that was here at the schools.
Just, can we go back to the BMO field? I don't know if we talked about it enough with Rob Hagee. I'll go through this quickly and let me know if I've missed anything, and I probably will. BMO Field 2-3 years ago hosted the Winter Classic hockey game. I hope I'm off to a good start.
Yep.
This resulted in the complete destruction of the playing field. They knew this, and so what Green Horizons did, who were the sodding contractors and providers for the rehabilitation of BMO Field following the Winter Classic, what they did is harvested enough sod, took it down to greenhouses, and laid it out and let it continue to care for itself.
Yep.
Then that was in the middle of the winter, February.
Yep.
It was rolled up again, brought by truck to BMO Field, where they, Rob didn't talk about this as much as he should have. They have this big tent that goes over the field, heated that tent up, and then Green Horizons installed the sod in the middle of the winter, following, I think, standard procedures. Is that right, guys?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And then they start to grow. The sod started to grow under this tent and grow lights and all that stuff in February. And though that sounds pretty straightforward, think of all the logistics in getting this organized. And you know, the cleanup of BMO Field had to happen in the middle of the winter because the hockey game was in December, we'll say.
Yeah.
So all the tearing out of the old sod, of the regrading, getting everything prepared happened in the middle of the winter. And you guys were ready, your sod was ready for TFC soccer games by spring, right? Or even before that.
Yeah, March. It was March when the first game was that we had to be ready for it.
It's
I
amazing.
forget what date, but it was middle,
Yeah.
second or third week of March.
You can really tweak Mother Nature if you have
Yeah,
money
yeah,
and
tools.
if you're prepared.
Yeah.
If you're prepared. I thought that was pretty cool.
Just talking about some projects, talking about some internal projects that we have done. You know, we're focusing on a lot of different things, different synergies we could do with our operation. You know, Fraser and I have been working on trying to design a sensor with the goal of doing variable rate nitrogen applications on our grass, and we've actually partnered with the University of Guelph on that project with Eric Lyons, and that's a project that we've really just been kind of taken head on. In the agricultural world, there's been a lot of precision agriculture products out there, precision GPS and precision seed planting. That's been a big innovation in the row crop world. But in the sod world, we're such a small industry comparative to corn and soybeans that we don't have the same type of research facilities out there. So it's kind of left up to us to do that type of research. So for the last few years, we've had a co-op student that we've been working with to try to develop this sensor. So that's been a unique problem we've been trying to solve.
Yeah.
You know, other things is this cover crop innovation that we've been doing. That was another thing that we had a couple of co-op students from the University of Guelph working with us to test these different cover crops, because it's just amazing how that is changing the agricultural world, that we're getting away from synthetic fertilizers and chemical. I shouldn't say getting away, but we're learning where it has a place, where also plants
Because
can be
synthetic
used.
fertilizers sit in the ground and don't break down like
P&K
natural sourced fertilizers?
Well, it does, but it's like what's a good analogy? It's like supplements. If anybody goes to the gym and you're an athlete and you work out and you use supplements, you're supplementing your diet. You're supplementing with vitamins or with proteins, but you're supplementing what you're taking in. And a supplement is like the last 5%. Like what really matters what do you eat? What kind of sleep do you
Right,
get?
right.
You know, what are the meals that you're taking in? You know, how often do you eat? That's what really matters. And then the supplementing is the last 5%. And for an athlete, that is as much true as it is in the plant world. Plants are feeding the same way. And what matters is the soil health. The soil health is the first 95%. And your supplement of synthetic fertilizers, that's really the last 5.
Yeah.
And you know, you can supplement and you can mask a problem with supplements or synthetic fertilizers, but you're putting a Band-Aid on a problem that could be 180 and improved with fixing the meal or fixing the soil.
Very good, very good. That makes sense. Guys, we're getting to the end, and I am cognizant of time that you guys have lives outside of the University of Guelph, obligations that you have today. Do you belong to professional organizations like the Nursery Sod Growers Association, Landscape Ontario? Go ahead, Mike.
Many of them.
Yeah, so we try to be as involved as possible. We're part of the NSGA, which is Ontario's non-for-profit for sod growers. We're part of the TGI. We donate to the facility. We're part of TPI, which is an international turfgrass outfit. Yeah, so we Landscape Ontario as well.
Yes.
And we donate to Landscape Ontario. We try to be involved in the industry.
Right, and that's the point I was looking for. I think you'll find, you know, in these next few weeks as we carry on with our final visitors of the year, I think you're going to find that leaders in turf management, people who are really leading the way, are involved in their associations. And you heard Mike say that Green Horizons gives to the GTI. Well, that's not an association. They give back to the industry. One of my great regrets in my career, I was a member of the Canadian Society of Landscape Architects and the Ontario Landscape Architecture Organization. And I didn't do anything with it. I just paid my fees, which were hefty. I paid my fees and just thought, okay, well, you know, who's ever looking after this, look after it. I really regret it now, and I'm not part of the Ontario Association of Landscape Architects anymore, the OALA. But, so I can't give back in my retirement, but what a mistake. What a mistake to not be part of the association that represents your industry. The more you get involved with it, the more it'll work in a way that makes sense to you. The more your industry, your profession will roll out ideas and practices that you agree with. I guess what I'm saying here is get involved. And I think Green Horizons and these two young gentlemen here are examples of that, of guys who are saying, we're going to keep giving. We're going to do our thing. Do you guys continue to get training and certification? Like, do you go to conferences?
Yeah, that's all part of that getting involved, you know. Landscape Ontario puts on the LO show.
The
and
LO
have
Congress, yeah.
all the seminars. We go to the TPI event every year.
Yes.
TPI is really good. They have these kind of lunch and learn style seminars where they're small enough that you can go to maybe 3 or 4 throughout the day, and I really enjoy those seminars at TPI.
Yeah, and trade shows, you get to talk to other vendors.
Yeah, and you get off the farm a bit too.
Yeah.
Get away from your place of employment.
Yeah.
I always like trade shows and conferences, and even though I'm not a turf manager by training, I still attended a lot of talks.
Yeah.
Mostly design oriented because that's what I am. But I went to some really very different talks too, and though I didn't always understand the language and the ideas being proposed, I always had a takeaway. So continue with training. 2 final questions. The last questions will be, is there anything else you want to add? But the one before that, that I thought was worth sharing, what do you think the future holds for young people entering the turf production, turf management, turf care industries? Where are we at with this? Are we going to find that in 10 years no one keeps sod anymore, that no one's, or is it growing? Are these guys onto something good?
Well, I would say the future is bright at Green Horizons.
And I think
So-
that one of the important things to take away, just with everything going on right now, everyone's realizing the importance of green space and, you know, how it affects our lives and our, you know, our families, our friends, everyone, you know.
A
you need-
psychological well-being.
Yeah,
Yeah.
your psychological well-being, you need to be outside, and these places need to exist, and how do they exist without, you know, companies like us or whatever, you know? You need to have usable ground cover, to be able to enjoy those things.
Yeah.
I think that's becoming more and more apparent every
Right.
day.
Right. It's being shown through studies
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
research that green is good.
I definitely think that the consumer has changed a little bit, you know, and that you've seen that in the golf industry. You know, golf has had a huge uptick, and I don't think that's gonna go away. I think maybe 2020 was a extraordinary year, but I don't think it's gonna disappear. I think consumers have changed, and they wanna get outside, they wanna be in large green space, they wanna be in those open areas, and in our world, you know, we're a part of every green space. You know, you can't go anywhere without seeing grass, you know,
Yeah.
any green space without seeing grass, and we like to think of ourselves as that. We are a green space creator. We create green space. We might be a sod farm, or we might be growing grass, but we are creating green space for people to enjoy. Whether it's a sports field or a golf course or your backyard or front yard or park, it doesn't matter. It's green space. And I think definitely with the, you know, where the world is at now, I think we have been fortunate in our industry that what we do is more desired, and I don't think that's going away.
Yeah. These guys should have good employment opportunities. A young person graduating from this program will be welcomed with open arms at Green Horizons. I can only guess.
We're always looking for people, especially people who really enjoy the industry.
That are trained.
Yeah, that, you know, we need those people to join our team. We need to
Yeah.
keep growing. We need to keep things moving.
Keep your, sorry Mike, keep your minds open, guys. The future is not just golf. The future is at all different levels of the turf management industry. Sorry, Mike.
Yeah, we exactly. You know, keep your mind open. We're definitely looking for more people. We're the type of company that if we have somebody that has a passion for what we do, you know, there might be an opportunity today, but we will build that career path with that person. We'll grow the company with you. That is how we have done it. We've had key people that wanted to go in a different direction or wanted to try something new. That was like Big Yellow Bag and licensing it out, or Order Saw Now, or getting into the golf. We've had our employees, our team members, push us into those directions, and we work with our team.
Yeah.
So we have opportunities today, and we have opportunities moving forward. It never ends.
So that whole idea of empowering your employees
Mhm.
to contribute, and what, I wrote it down here, I won't be able to read it right now because my glasses aren't on my head, but
Mhm.
I don't think, but, you know, to empower your employees to make decisions. I forget
Yeah.
which one of you guys said that.
Mhm.
Give them ownership of the decision-making process and they'll be buying. Questions from you? Are there any questions from you guys at this time? And yeah, Sterling.
With you guys constantly removing sod and all that, do you find that you have to add maybe more fertilizer and nutrients back into the soil because you're taking it out so much, or just naturally tilling it in kind of thing?
Yeah, I would say it's almost the opposite comparative to a corn crop or a soybean crop. You find with corn specifically, when you look at the biomass of that plant that you grow within one annual year, and you look at the weight of what you're taking off in those corn kernels, you're taking off 60% of that biomass, that above ground biomass. And when we do sod, it is much less than that. And what I was saying about that 2 to 3 year growth cycle, that is completely different than these annual crops that you know, the rest of these cash croppers are doing. And we're doing it as well, but you definitely have to fertilize, like just talking synthetic fertilizers alone, what it takes to grow a cob of corn versus grass, it takes less, and it's an annual. It takes more fertilizer to grow corn annually
Then the
That's
perennial of turf grass.
Yeah, then a 3-year
Interesting.
crop of grass, which is
Interesting.
amazing. That always amazes me.
Yeah, yeah. Other questions, my friends? Again, I'm aware of time, especially for our guests today. I have a question, and I'm gonna put you on the spot. Can I do that? Can I hold you
Absolutely.
guys? We have been engaged to sod the cannon. Sod the cannon.
Yeah,
And I sent a message out to first year, they might be a little hesitant to ask that, but can we at least approach you about some product to sod the cannon?
Absolutely.
yeah, no problem.
All right, I thought I would ask that. I'm not sure who's gonna take the leadership on this effort for first year, but if you would reach out to me, I'll give you, I have Mike's
Yeah.
email address. And I think it's still a question to ask Brooks Primo in second year, how many rolls were required last year? I know some years they've got, say, an entire skid, and they were sodding half of the campus, so to speak. But I forget how many rolls they took last year. And I'm sorry to throw you guys on the spot like that, but I
No
thought I
problem.
would
We
just,
love it.
you've been so
Yeah.
kind and
Yeah, no
considerate
problem.
over the years that I felt pretty comfortable to ask it.
Yeah, no problem.
Gentlemen, are there any points that you want to make before we wrap it up? Is there anything?
I guess feel free to reach out. Like, we are always looking for people to join our team. So if you're ever interested in a career or a co-op, whatever,
Yeah, yeah.
just reach out.
If you're in the Guelph area, the Cambridge Farm, and I'm sorry, Fraser, or if you're in Hamilton, what am I saying? If you're in the Hamilton, Burlington area, there are both destinations for you at Green Horizons, and I'll say for the third or fourth time today, Eric Jacobson, now in second year, enjoyed himself completely at Green Horizons this last summer doing his internship. He's a golf course guy, or was. I don't know what he's feeling now, but keep that mind open, kids. This is no time to be saying, my future is this, I'm 22 years old, and I know exactly what I want to do. And I would guess, too, that a visitor, a turf diploma student, could always come out and visit Green Horizons on his or her own schedule and have a chat with you guys. Once again, I can get you Mike's email address, and Cam Shaw knows Mike well as well. So your contact with Green Horizons does not end with my departure as I retire at the end of this year. But please give this some thought, okay? I guess that's about it. Any last minute thoughts come up, my friends? All right, gentlemen, thank you for your time today. That was very kind of you. Very kind. I wonder, we've got a couple extra pair there. I know Doug would want one, Mac would want one.
Yeah,
And who else am I missing today?
Pretty much it.
Doug and Mac anyway.
Yeah.
If we can grab 2 pair, that would be great.
Right on.
Thank you so much for your time today, guys. And anyone who wants to chat, please hang around, say hello. I know these guys do have to get going, but they probably have an extra minute.